missile fragment falling to the ground and exploding in Doha, the capital of Qatar. It's part of the retaliation from Iran after the U.S. and Israel launched a massive and ongoing military campaign across Iran. U.S. embassies across the region are now telling Americans to shelter in place, and just in, the State Department is now urging all U.S. citizens in Lebanon to get out while commercial options are still available. Let's go live right now to CNN's Paula Hancock, who's joining us from Abu Dhabi. Paula, you and your teams are hearing new explosions where you are all the time, right?
Yes, Wolf, there was another wave of incoming missiles, or at least we heard the blasts of what we assume to be the interceptions by the defense here in the UAE. This has been happening for hours now, so we're certainly seeing no let-up in the retaliation from Iran. We've heard from the Ministry of Defense here in Abu Dhabi saying that they have been intercepting missiles. They also say that one person has been killed by falling debris after an interception. We've seen images of smoke near the Al Dhafra base here in Abu Dhabi as well, so potentially not all of those missiles were intercepted, but we're certainly seeing no let-up in this retaliation. We've seen it as well in Doha, in Qatar. They just recently had another wave of incoming missiles. Officials there saying that they are intercepting them as they come in. There are shelter-in-place orders across the Gulf nations. Airspace has been closed. We know in Bahrain, where the U.S. Navy's Fifth Fleet is based, that they have been targeted as well. And the same in Kuwait. We have heard reports in Jordan as well. There is anger as well as concern amongst these Gulf nations that they have become targets themselves. Many of them had said to the United States they were unable to use their bases if they were going to strike Iran. They had said that their airspace must not be used as well, as they wanted to put some distance between themselves and what the US president was ultimately going to decide to do. We've heard statements, for example, from Saudi Arabia saying that they give the strongest condemnation of this blatant and cowardly Iranian attacks, also pointing out that there have been incoming into Riyadh and the eastern province. Qatar has called it a flagrant violation of its national sovereignty. The UAE condemning and denouncing this as well in the strongest terms, the blatant Iranian missile attacks. So there is concern in these Gulf nations who are unaccustomed to this level of intense missile attack. But there is also anger that they have found themselves on the receiving end of this as well. Remember back in June when the US and Israel carried out those strikes on the nuclear facilities in Iran, it was Qatar only that was targeted, and that one was fairly restrained. That is not the case now.
You think this is dramatically in the next few days and maybe next few weeks going to dramatically escalate this war?
I think it has the potential of doing so, Wolf. And, what you're seeing is a very large Iranian response. And I think, it's going to be interesting to get the military assessment from places like CENTCOM to see if they had anticipated this kind of a reaction from the Iranians. They clearly anticipated some of that by evacuating some troops from some of these bases that you've mentioned in the Persian Gulf region. But I don't know if they've really anticipated the magnitude of this, because it looks like, we're looking at several hundred, if not a series of 1,000 drones heading toward Israel, and potentially other targets as well. And if you add that, couple that with missiles that the Iranians still have, it could be a fairly substantial response. The question then would be, though, what kind of follow-up will the Iranians have?
How effective is that Iron Dome anti-missile system that Israel has over the whole country in dealing with a lot of drones coming in from Iran?
This is what the Iranians are trying to do, Wolf. The Iron Dome system was not built for drones. It does have some modifications that have been made to it to work on the drone problem. But the problem is that with a swarm of drones, it's going to overwhelm most radars that are associated with the Iron Dome. And that's why why not only do they have the Iron Dome, but the other elements of the Israeli air defense, air and missile defense systems like the Arrow system and David Sling, but also the Aegis systems that the U.S. Navy brings in. And those are sitting off the coast of Israel right now, and they are supposed to help with this. Let's see how effective they are this time. They were highly effective in June. Let's see how effective they are now.
Joining me now is CNN national security analyst Alex Plitzis. Alex, let's start right where Wolf left off. Explosions over Bahrain. The Iranians hit the U.S. Navy's 5th Fleet Service Center. Explosions over UAE, both Dubai and Abu Dhabi, over Jordan, Kuwait, other states there in the region. Just put into context the scope of the response from the Iranians and what you glean from how they've responded and how quickly.
So it's clear that they were prepared for counterstrikes to a certain extent, given that they reacted fairly quickly in the middle of the night to the strikes, because in the 12-day war, they took a little bit of time to respond as they regained command and control and determined what assets that they had left. And they took 5 days to respond after Qasem Soleimani was assassinated. So this is clear that there had been some pre-planning that was done. And as you mentioned, the countries that were attacked here specifically are where we have specific bases. So in Kuwait, we have Ali Al Salim Air Force Base. In the UAE, we have Al Dhafra Air Base, about 20 miles south of Abu Dhabi. In Bahrain, we have the 5th Fleet that's based out of there. In Doha, we happen to have nearby Al Udeid Air Force Base. Is not only the Air Force Base, but also the forward headquarters for U.S. Central Command. So all of those locations are strategic U.S. military bases in the region.
I'm joined now by Daniel Shapiro. He's the former U.S. ambassador to Israel. Ambassador Shapiro, thanks so much for joining us. I understand you are now in a shelter in Tel Aviv. Well, what caused you and your associates to go to this shelter? What happened?
Thanks for having me, Wolf. So early this morning, for the first time, a siren sounded, and where I was staying, we all rushed to a shelter. That's now happened about 7 or 8 times today here in central Israel. The last one, which just occurred a few moments ago, was followed by a series of booms, which is an interception of an incoming missile. And earlier in the day, we heard 1 or 2 of such booms. But in the last round, we heard over 2 dozen. So it seems that the Iranians have changed their tactics as the day has gone on, from individual or small numbers of missile attacks to at least the last one being a larger salvo, which they've used in the past to try to saturate and penetrate Israeli air defenses.
Do you get a sense that the Iranians and their missile attacks, their drone attacks, are going after specific Israeli military targets, or just launching them to kill people and destroy as much as possible?
It's impossible for me to know from the places I've been able to be today exactly what they're targeting. In the past, they have put a lot of emphasis on military targets, intelligence targets, but some civilian targets. There are still buildings destroyed in central Tel Aviv from the war last June. So, and because Israel's a small country and a lot of civilian population lives alongside various other installations, and these missiles are not that accurate, it's entirely possible that they could shoot for a security target and hit an apartment building or a neighborhood. So they're probably going to cause as much damage as they can, given the pressure they're under from combined U.S. and Israeli strikes that the president announced this morning.
Yeah, clearly a lot of targets for the Iranians in the Tel Aviv area, and good luck over there. Just stay safe. What do you think regime change in Iran potentially could look like? Do you see a clear path to who might actually take over if there is regime change?
I think this is one of the big question marks hanging over what the president announced last night. First of all, I think many Americans probably woke up this morning surprised to discover that we're at war in the Middle East, something the president said he was going to try to avoid. And he really didn't do very much to prepare the public or discuss with the public what his strategy was, what the goal is, why it was imminent, and why it was necessary to take this action now. He mentioned what we know very well about this terrible Iranian regime. It's a nuclear program, ballistic missile program, its abuse of its own people, and its sponsorship of terrorism. But why now? And it was surprising to me that he laid the predicate that the goal of this is regime change, because that is not something that can be done just by airstrikes. What he said, and he's probably right about this, is that only the Iranian people on the ground are going to be able to overthrow the regime and replace it with something else. But replace it with what? Most intelligence experts who you consult with suggest the most likely near-term replacement for the current regime is a military dictatorship under the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. Beyond that, it's a big question mark whether there is a sufficiently consolidated opposition, whether it could be done peacefully or democratically, whether different splinter groups, ethnic or regional splinter groups, might try to break away from the main state. So it could be a very chaotic situation, even if the president's goal of regime change is successful.